Hello. So today we're going to be looking at elements and principles. Specifically, we're going to be looking at unity, depth, and contrast. So what is an element or principle, and why are they so important? Well, elements and principles are used by graphic designers to create really visually impactful pieces of work. So what does that mean? All that means is that they use these elements and principles to create professional and appealing looking graphics which look really impactful and look really good. And they can use unity, depth, and contrast in order to achieve those results. Here we have three really bad examples of graphics design. Okay, the graphic designer has clearly not used their elements or principles when they made these designs. There's far too many colors on the page. There's about 50 different fonts on the page. There's no structure to them. And to be honest, I don't even know where to look. The information is not legible whatsoever. Okay, nothing is jumping out at me for the right reason. Or it's all jumping out at me and I can't decipher what is what. What's most important, what's not. Okay, so we're going to be using our elements and principles to prevent us from coming up with designs like that and coming up with designs which are more visually impactful. So to get started, we're going to first look at contrast. So love them or hate them, Apple are very good at creating contrast in their advertisements. It's effective when used well and can create really powerful designs. However, when not used well, can really take away from the design. Okay, so contrast is all about using things that are opposites to each other to help create some impact on your design. There's loads of different ways that you can create contrast. For example, it could be through size, having something smaller and something bigger. It could be through color, having, say, something in black, something in white, maybe having things opposite each other on the color wheel. You could have it in shapes, maybe having some lines which are vertical, some lines which are horizontal, maybe having it in some shapes which are soft and round, some which are more straight and geometric. Okay, there's multiple ways you can do it, but just remember, as you can see in the examples on the right side of the screen, just because you create contrast doesn't mean it's going to be a good piece of work. For example, contrast is clearly used in the top right, however, there's a really bad contrast going on there. The red is far too bright and it does not work well with that blue. However, in the image below it, we've used the same colors, but we've just dialed it down a touch. And now we've got some really effective use of contrast. Okay, so you need to be careful how you use it. Don't just try and make everything opposite. It's just subtle little changes that can create a really impactful design. Okay, so that's contrast. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is depth. Okay, so depth is really important because a graphic design is all 2D. Okay, when you look at graphic design, it's 2D, the poster is 2D, the layout is 2D, it's completely flat on the page. So to create a bit more interest and create more eye-catching, we want to give the illusion that there's some depth to the page. And the way we do that is by creating layers on the page. So for example, we just wrapped up the year 2020. You can see in that example, they've got the number 2020, but they have a colorful ribbon which is wrapped initially behind the number. It then goes on top, through again, through the box, and out the box again. Okay, that creates the feeling of depth because there's a background, a foreground to the design. There's different areas. There's areas which have been layered on top of each other. Equally, if we look on the right side, that just proves that depth can be applied so simply just by adding layers, having something on top of each other. You can see we've got the green diagonal lines which are in the background, and on top of it the designer has just put his title and the rectangular box around it. Okay, so it's nice and subtle. It doesn't mean you have to have a full background and loads of things on top of that. It could just be a small little feature, something in the background and something on top of it. Again, keeping it nice and simple is really effective. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is unity. So there's multiple ways you can create unity. And unity is just connecting the design all together. Okay, so it's making sure that the design actually flows nicely and looks good. Okay, you can do that through multiple ways. For example, repetition of a shape or repetition of a color. For example, in this example, we've got an infographic of Federer and Nadal, and you can clearly see nice unity through the repetition of the colors blue and through the repetition of the colors pink. So Federer, all the information related to him is in blue, and Nadal, all the information related to him is in pink. Another example it's used is the repetition of the font. It's the same font used throughout the whole graphic. Okay, there's not 5 or 6 different fonts, it's the same one used throughout the whole graphic. Another nice example is of the infographic logic, and you can clearly see there's also repetition through red this time, and there's also unity through shape. For example, you've got the straight line under where it says net worth 14 million, you've got the straight line under the actual rapper himself, and then where it says highest album sales, you've got the straight lines under all the values there. Okay, there's no zigzag lines or there's no wavy lines in there. He's kept it consistent, kept it straight. Okay, so he's connected the whole page with those straight lines, which is very impactful. Okay, and it's really simple. That's what you'll figure out with graphics. The less you do, the better. And that's one of the best things you can think about in graphic design. The less you do, the better. As we look back at our first examples, they're totally cluttered, okay? As we said, so many colors, okay? Multiple different fonts used there. No structure whatsoever. Whereas if you look at these examples, on the left, there's a nice clean structure, okay? There's repetition through shape. There's unity through color, okay? It's impactful because it's simple. And that's really what we want to get the message across. Keep things nice and simple, and you'll create really impactful designs. Okay, so that was a whistle-stop tour through the elements and principles of unity, depth, and contrast.